Viewer discretion is advised.
Diamondbacks. Does anyone even know who Goldie is? He is the Stan Musial of today. You let other teams take a dip in your pool, and you also pulled a Marlins in almost the exact same way, winning your ring and then breaking up the team like a giant Lego ball. Once known as the Bob, or Bank One Ballpark, the stadium features a retractable roof which is more to keep the blaring heat and death ray sun out than the rain. The park also features a swimming pool which has seen its fair share of splash hits and pee. Remember when the D-backs were good? Well, the defending champs got whipped by the Dodgers like Zion Williamson's hopes and dreams on lottery night. The Dodgers' 24-hit effort included 3 stolen bases in a game that was over by the 4th inning. Really? 3 steals? Eddie Oropesa gets the Sheld Award, as in 1.2 innings he gave up 9 hits, 10 earned runs, and 2 bombs. D-backs first baseman Mark Grace pitched the 9th and only gave up 1 run, a home run to David Ross. Created by Brantley Bell, former Major Leaguer Jay Bell's son, no relation to the other Bells, Baxter was originally selected because the home field used to be known as the Bob, and a bobcat seemed natural. Unfortunately, a chase cat doesn't exist, but when the ballpark changed names, Baxter got to stay. Luckily, bobcats are native to Arizona, and Brantley Bell is currently an infielder in the Cincinnati Reds farm system. A team that seems more boring than Paul Goldschmidt when he was a D-back. Their most cheatingest moment wasn't even a cheatingest moment. In 2017, former big leaguer and D-backs interpreter Ariel Prieto was fined for having an Apple Watch in the dugout, but cleared of cheating during the NL wildcard game. He says the watch was on airplane mode, but like, dude, nobody uses that shit. This is just a gorgeous stadium and robust facility. They really went above and beyond. I love the architecture of the overlapping grandstand. Everything looks well thought out and aesthetically pleasing. It's also across the street from a mall, and the Talking Stick Casino / Resort is a short ride away, so you can go there and gamble away your money. I'm sure others will say that I got this one wrong, but hey, that's what happens when you rank things. In 1998, Chase Field was the first U.S. stadium to have a retractable roof and a natural grass playing surface. As you can see here, it was closed on the day Google Maps did a flyover. 2 cool things about this place. It's been the only home of the D-backs in their entire history, something only the Rays can also boast. And I love the huge wall in center field, just basically saying only real men can go deep in center here.
Great collapses in MLB history. This ball hammered deep center field. Way back. Is it fair? Let's hold on a second. As much as I would love to just show terrible Diamondbacks footage and call it a day, there's always a few chapters before this that are overlooked. So while you may see an utterly broken team that has imploded in every aspect, we need to investigate the sources of this demise. The team that's gone 5-40 as of late had a build-up to that 5-40. And it took years to get to this point. For even when you look at it from the surface, there is no way that the Diamondbacks should be this bad this quickly. When a team inexplicably bottoms out like this, it's not a sudden fall, but a gradual cratering. Something that could have been long avoided with proper guidance. Here are some cold facts. Arizona has been so brutal that they make the 10,000 simulations of the 2019 Pirates seem competitive. 4-24 never looks sweeter than it does. I doubt this keeps up, but they're currently on pace to break the loss record set by the expansion Mets. They literally broke the record for most consecutive road losses in league history. This is a special kind of atrocious. They've lost in literally every single way a team can, with not 1, but 2 13-game losing streaks. Bad teams find ways to lose, and the Diamondbacks sure as hell have been doing that. The main thing in this situation is to understand the vision of what a team was going for. Here lies the major issue. There is none. That file was never found. Over the past 3 or 4 years, it's been simply riding the wind instead of sticking to a set course. Catering to the winds of momentum instead of understanding curves are thrown in a team's path. And I'm going to show you 3 times where this lack of a set plan reared its head. Get in the time machine, everyone. We're going back to a simpler time in life. For years, Arizona was in a bit of a limbo. They had talent, but not enough of it. They had the ability to make it to the playoffs, but no further. They could crush someone like, say, a Colorado, but then they'd run into a stronger team and fall. Let's say this team is the Dodgers. It's a team that needed some more oomph. They were good, but not at the top echelon. The pitching's strong and the bat's powerful, but they had strikeout issues. But here is where the problems begin to fester. The Diamondbacks had a key free agent entering the market in J.D. Martinez. He was acquired from the Tigers and had been a boon to their hitting core. They gave up next to nothing to get him, and he raked like leaves in the fall. Yes, he was going to get paid on the market, but Mike Hazen had other options to choose from. So off to the Red Sox he goes for an exorbitant sum. Now the problem here wasn't letting Martinez go even though it sucked. The problem was that he tried to get too damn cute with his replacement. Let's see who fits this profile. Power-hitting corner outfielder, probably best as a DH, can take a pitch, strikes out a ton, but can be found on the bargain bin. Oh, here we go, Steven Souza from Tampa Bay. It's not like the Rays have fleeced people in trades before, right? Spoiler alert, it didn't work. Souza regressed as a member of the D-backs, then fell to the injury bug. Then fell to arbitration denial. But wait a minute, you say, they have Yasmani Tomas, the big Cuban signing that hit bombs? He was taken off the 40-man because he bombed in the field. Could have really used that money you were paying to bury him. So not only do they have a massive right field-sized hole, but get to enjoy the wonders of mass regression and injuries. The season was a roller coaster of inconsistency. They'd start out the year 11-3. They'd fall apart and lose 16 of 20, then pull a 21 of 31 game win streak out their ass. Ending August with a record of 74-61, then fall apart with an 8-19 September. Now there are things you can't predict in a season, but why didn't they do much of anything to address either the momentum or slides? The only real move made was to bring in Eduardo Escobar. What were they thinking? Just pray to get a bunch of Clay Buchholzes to fall from the sky? A simple Jake Diekman who fell to shit ain't gonna cut it. And that's why you fall to 82-80. Now cue the next mistake. It's apparently here where they tried absolutely nothing and we're all out of ideas. Fuck it, launch the goddamn nukes. I have no idea why, but they saw the previous year and figured, well, it's time to rebuild. Screw throwing money at this team, we'll pretend we did things and call it a day. The costs came in the form of a few franchise faces. A.J. Pollock and Patrick Corbin in free agency, and Paul Goldschmidt being shipped off to St. Louis. The return for Goldie wasn't bad. He got a haul of good prospects to bolster their top 10 farm system, but they didn't really go that far per se. If you're trying to dismantle them, why is David Peralta still here? He's a good hitter, he's coming off a career year, and he's cost controlled. His value wasn't getting any higher. This would have been the perfect time to trade him if you were rebuilding, yet he's still around. So is Arizona, in a way, but they decided to get themselves out of that huge Zach Greinke contract at the deadline for another good prospect haul. At this point, the course seems clear. One focused on a rebuild and fortifying a strong farm system, developing the future core. With the Dodgers showing no signs of stopping, it's an interesting path, but then there was a twist. They started winning. Quite a bit. In a 5-week span, the D-backs went from the doldrums of 54-55 to 75-67. They were on the outskirts of playoff contention. Ketel Marte was hitting out of his goddamn mind, looking like a bona fide superstar. Christian Walker emerged as a strong replacement for Goldie. Zach Gallen was a low-key steal in a trade with Miami. And then those dreams are dashed by losing 8 of 10. Even then, they somehow had a better record than they did the year prior, considering the same inconsistencies. Instead of acknowledging the sudden surge and staying course on their rebuild, they decided that apparently now is the time to splurge in the market yet again. Yes, this is making as much sense to you as it does to me. Which is not. They go off trading key pieces throughout the last year, yet reshuffle the deck with new key pieces? Sure, acquire Starling Marte and Cole Calhoun if you think they're gonna help you out, but signing Mad Bum to a huge deal? Why didn't you just keep Greinke or Corbin then? You're already paying Houston $10 million per year in the Greinke deal, it wouldn't have cost that much more. A name brand pitcher with a shit ton of mileage and questions about long-term durability. Perfect for a 5-year deal. Do you now understand why this team had no vision? Like previous years, 2020 was the same thing for Arizona. Inconsistency. They start out 3-8, win 10 of 13, then fall apart and lose 8 in a row in 20 of 24. A good few players fall off the map. The attempts to buy had backfired. Regression and futility are the names of the game here, and it sheds a massive spotlight on Mike Hazen, particularly his god-awful timing on trades. The Diamondbacks had turned into the average user on Wall Street bets. They develop FOMO and invest in a player when his value is at its peak. Then, shock, it plummets to unfathomable lows. They get greedy, seeing dollar signs instead of wisely cashing out when the time is right. The result is either cutting your losses for pennies or letting them go for nothing. Now, the likes of Taijuan Walker are misfortunate but inevitable. He got injured, was denied arbitration, and has now rehabilitated his career with the Mets. But what about Robbie Ray? At the 2019 deadline, they could have gotten a haul and a half for him. However, they apparently didn't like what teams were offering and held on. Big mistake. Ray fell off a cliff in 2020, to the point where he got traded for a guy who wasn't even on Toronto's top 30 prospect list. Know what's worse? Robbie Ray having his mechanics tweaked, allowing him to return to form the following year. As for the guy they traded him for, they sold him back to the Jays this spring. And it doesn't end there. Look at Starling Marte. He was okay, but his value had plummeted before the deadline in 2020, forcing him to be sold for significantly less than they bought him for. Same goes for Archie Bradley, just sold off to get whatever they could for him when he had greater value earlier. What about Jake Lamb? There were times to trade him, but they held on for too long as he slid further and further into unmovability. They couldn't even get anything. They had to cut him and watch as he's passable elsewhere. And to replace some of these guys, they roll the dice on some veteran placeholders in the hopes they can shield the prospects from certain ruination. Thus is how you get to the point you see here. Total failure. 5-40. This is rock bottom for the Diamondbacks franchise. The kind of stretch that's mentioned in hushed tones in back alleys years after the fact. And once again, this team should be nowhere near this bad. Their upside is mediocrity, but a team trotting out Ketel Marte shouldn't be going 5-40. I get the NL West is tough, but the Giants were in the same predicament as you before the year and they're thriving. And you think it can't get worse? Well, luck isn't on your side either. Injuries galore in the pitching staff. Cole Calhoun has a mangled hamstring. Carson Kelly suffered a wrist injury. Mad Bum is turning into an absolute albatross. They still don't have a long-term right fielder. The prospects haven't been developing as expected. The once power-hitting machine has become a paperweight. And why the fuck is Ketel Marte playing center field? He's a natural infielder, now keep him there. It makes about as much sense as the Diamondbacks have over the past few years, which is honestly fitting. The comparison here is obvious. The 2018 Baltimore Orioles. Another team that bottomed out hard after years of drifting in and out of relevance. The writing was on the wall for them, and now it is for Arizona. You flirted with blowing it up a few years ago? Well, now you might have no choice but to glass the entire ecosystem. Coaches have already been fired, and the writing is on the wall for Torey Lovullo and Mike Hazen as well. Despite what they need to do, it'll get tougher to find returns for what they're selling. The only player that can probably get them an excellent return is Ketel Marte, and I don't know if I trust the current brass to do it. Now, Mike Hazen's wife is dealing with cancer, and he's taken a leave of absence to be with her. That absolutely sucks, and I wish them well. But it doesn't excuse him from the mess he's left in his wake. He's done a terrible job here. It's like I'm seeing a blend of small and large market tactics without any cohesion. Nothing but the wrong moves made at the wrong time. Is it ownership and their power struggle dictating this? Is it him trying to imitate the Rays without any of their savvy? Is it both? Either way, the Diamondbacks are walking in the aftermath of a silo explosion. Any plans were apparently thrown out the window and now they have to pick up the pieces. Quite possibly for a while. Quite bad timing to try and get those funds to renovate Chase Field, isn't it?